Here's what the collar design looks like. Then there's a line inside like this.
This line serves as a reference point for the decorative line. When we draw the collar in front, don't worry about this line for now. Normally, flip the fabric from side to side.
You just need to outline the collar.
Here, let's take a moment to remove the collar.
You can see this collar in the video. I drew in the same direction.
I didn't draw by flipping it sideways.
Here I will explain the reason.
It's because I have two pieces of fabric here. They
One
are
on
made
top
from
and
the
one
same
below.
fabric.
After we complete the removal,
we turn one of the pieces inside out, then we can make the collar on the other side. When we take out the stitches, because of our own sewing habits, we might sew from left to right, or when sewing from right to left.
our stitching, the position of this turn will be slightly different. It can easily cause our two collars.
After flipping it over,
Its shape will have some obvious differences.
so we can take out the stitches in the same direction to prevent the collar from becoming asymmetrical. However, this method is only suitable for when both pieces of fabric we use are made of the same
The
material.
top part of your fabric,
This is different from the one below. Then you need to provide it properly. Draw the pattern of this collar symmetrically. If you are using the same one, you can follow my method. Draw in the same direction. Finally, after we finish ironing,
turn it to the other side.
this way there are two normal collars.
Then when we sew them together,
The starting and ending positions both should extend outward by a margin of 5
Measure
millimeters.
the seam
from here to here. Only measure this arc. This line here is not to be removed.
the other collar is also the same. Once we're done, we'll do the trimming. This part is unstitched.
Leave a 5 millimeters allowance for
This
cutting. This edge has been stitched. We use pinking shears. If we don't have pinking shears, just make some cuts in the curved areas yourself.
After both collars are cut,
We directly flip it over and iron it.
the neatly arranged collar.
We directly flip one of them inside out. This way, we have a pair of collars. Then we take out the wooden pieces. Align the edges of the pieces. Redraw the previous design line.
Trace it again on the front. Once the collar is done, we can use this blueprint, cut it out like this, align the style.
Indicate the position of the edge decorative Trace it out clearly.
This line is a decorative line. Then I'll directly use this sewing machine. Sew it on.
The more hardworking sisters. You can also do hand sewing.
Embroider some designs.
Or maybe you don't like this decorative thread. You can also leave it out. This serves only a decorative purpose. It doesn't affect the clothing at all. The two collars are done using the same method. Set it aside for later use. Our sleeve consists of an upper part and a lower part. I'll start by discussing the lower part. The dimensions shown in the drawing do not include the seam allowance. Therefore, we need to add the seam allowance ourselves. I have left a 7 millimeter seam allowance. The remaining three edges should leave 5 millimeters.
Because of the position of the cuff,
we need to fold the edge inward. I sewed a 5 millimeter line here, so at least 7 millimeters should be left. If your sewing line is relatively narrow, you can also leave a smaller amount. Decide based on the actual situation. Another point is the lower part of the sleeve, because we will ultimately do a pleating process.
so the length is given quite long.
If there are some friends you don't want to make this pleat,
Then you can adjust this size to be shorter.
this can also be determined based on your own preferences.
Or you can start with a longer size for now.
Then we finally finish putting on the sleeves.
Then you adjust it on your body. Then determine which length fits best.
You then proceed to trim it. So here we first mark the cuff position of the sleeve's lower half. Fold the edge inward slightly. Fold along the seam line toward the back.
I have gently pressed this area.
Then the surface happened to become a bit rough. After properly folding it, we completely cut the thread on the front side.
Fix this position. The lower part of the other sleeve is handled the same way. Then we take out the upper part of the sleeve.
We need to pull the thread at both of these positions.
I have all double lines here.
That is, we are sewing the left and right sides. Pull a line at 2 millimeters on each side. Here I use a distance of 4 and do not backstitch.
After pulling the lines, we take out the lower part.
We need to tie these positions together flat. So we start with the bottom edge of the upper half of the sleeve.
This straight edge.
Pull it to create a fold. At the same time, pull in the 2 bottom lines to draw this one out.
The size after the folding is
compared to the width of this lower part to ensure consistency. We will sew them together with the fronts facing each other.
Please check after measuring.
If there are no issues, then remove the drawn fold line.
Then we turn it to the front.
Measure a clear line at this position. When measuring the line, make stitches underneath. It points towards the cuff at the bottom. After measuring, it appears like this. Then let's take care of it. This upper drawn fold line. Similarly, it simultaneously pulls in 2 bottom lines. Take this one out. After taking this one out, set it aside for Handle the other sleeve using the same method and set it aside. Before we start, let's take out the front piece of this fabric. Here, let's talk about the line count of this colored fabric. I drew this on the front side of the fabric, especially the positions of the 2 straight lines in the middle. It must be drawn on the front side of the fabric.
Then we take a long strip of fabric. Draw a straight line on it.
Leave a 5 millimeters margin beside the straight line. We will align the position of this straight line with the fabric below. Align it with the line on the left.
Sew directly along this line. After sewing, we'll trim this area of the fabric a little. Leave about 2 to 3 millimeters of edge. After trimming, we'll fold this layer of fabric to the right. The horizontal fold is where we will sew.
Using the horizontal position as a reference, we measure a distance to the right. This distance represents the width of this position.
Next, draw a line. Once this line is drawn, we use it as a reference.
Leave a margin of approximately 3 millimeters. Trim off the excess parts.
After trimming, we fold down along this folding line. You can iron this folded area. After ironing, we flip this area back. Be careful at this point. If there are too many patterns underneath this position,
small sizes might look too bulky, difficult to fold,
then you can trim this style a bit on both sides. After we flip this over here,
you will see that this position is perfectly aligned with the line below.
This way everything is fine. We can go straight down along the edge.
Move to a visible line 1 millimeter
Secure
away.
this position. Then, at the same position on the other side, move to the clear line. Once the removal is done, simply trim off the excess parts at both ends. After finishing the front piece,
we take out the 2 back pieces and position the front piece to sew the pointed seams. The lining is also sewn to the pointed seams of the front and back pieces. Note that the lining does not need to be sewn to the decorative strip at the front. Then we will unfold the front and back pieces like this. we need to make a mark in the center of the front piece. Here at the neckline, here we will attach the collar. Take note of this position of the opening at the back.
Let me first draw our style line.
About 5 millimeters in from the style line. We will start sewing from this side. The ending position on the other side also leaves about 5 millimeters. Line the collar edge with this marked point. We sew along the guideline downwards. Pay attention to the pointed seam position at the bottom. This pointed seam should be split to both sides.
The end of this collar is exactly at the center point we marked earlier.
Then we take out another collar to continue sewing. Make sure there is no gap between the two collars. You should attach it a bit more tightly.
The end position is at the 5 millimeter mark inside this seam line.
Next, we will sew the sleeves at the gathering points on both sides.
Take out the sleeve we prepared earlier.
The location of the pleat on top.
Let's adjust this pleat a bit.
Once the adjustment is made, first, we manually compare its size with this fixing position. Here, I only measure it to the position of the front seam.
Then fold the sleeve here.
Check if the other side is about the same, because the dimensions at the front and back are the same. If it is folded like this, it's almost the same, then that will be fine. Then we will align the sleeve with the front of this alteration position. Then sew along the style line.
After measuring, turn it to the front to check.
If everything is fine, then take off the gathered line we just made. After finishing the sleeves, the front side looks like this.
If anyone doesn't want to make pleats,
you just let the child try on this piece of clothing.
Check
first.
how long the sleeves should be.
Choose the appropriate length. Add the width of the design.
Trim off the excess part. Then just redo the edges.
If you want to create pleats, then you shouldn't cut it. Just handle the other sleeve normally.
Just do it the same way. After both sleeves are completed,
we take out the lining and place the outer fabric against it.
Here, we need to sew around the neckline.
When sewing, we should have the outer fabric facing outer fabric side as the guide, following the line of the side collar we just talked about.
Sew it again. While sewing, we can follow this line.
Shift to the position 1 millimeter moving to the right, or you can step on it just right. If you go too far to the right, flip it over to the front.
The first line of our vehicle will be visible.
Here we can drive alongside the opening position at the back.
From this opening at the back,
sew it towards the neckline.
During the sewing process,
the pointed seam positions we encounter should be split to both sides.
After measuring, we will trim this circle of the neckline using lace trimming.
If you don't have pinking shears, just use regular scissors. Even if you have pinking shears, you still need to be careful. Because if many of the ladies apply too much force, they might end up cutting the fabric. Then sew along the right angle on both edges. Trim it at an angle again.
After trimming,
let's first flip the tablecloth to the side.
Then pull out the lining.
We will sew the front and back pieces of the lining together at the side seam, with the right
other
sides
side
facing
is the
each other.
Same.
The front should face the side seam position.
After preparing the lining,
now, let's work on the outer fabric. Place the front and back pieces of the outer fabric right sides together. Sew them together like this.
Sew from the bottom up here.
Then fold the sleeves at the armpit.
The other side is the same. After finishing, add a few stitches at both armpits. Now let's take a look at how the hem of the garment opens up. Let's sew directly along the bottom edge. Align the sewn area vertically and then separate it to both sides.
Afterward, we will sew and trim the two right angles on this side.
Then we will turn the whole garment inside out from the lining.
After flipping it over, give the whole piece a good press. The sisters skilled in straight stitching should sew a line along the edge of the garment. The sisters skilled in straight stitching should sew a line along the edge of the garment.
I sew the straight line along the edge a little wider.
Then, for the neckline, a straight stitch of about 1 millimeter will suffice. Sew the hidden button at the back or skip attaching let's take care of the sleeve section. Here we're going to work on the pleated section. I've already completed this sleeve.
I inserted a marker into the sleeve. It's a bit thicker.
You don't have to use a pen specifically. If you have a wooden stick or something a bit thicker, that's fine as well.
Its thickness is just right for fitting into the sleeve, but there won't be much space. For instance, this thinner pen,
you can insert it in. The empty area will be larger.
It is advisable to use a thicker pen here,
because the creases created by this pen will look better. It will be more uniform. Using a thinner pen won't be as uniform. Then we spray water on the lower part of the sleeve. Just spray on the lower part.
If you don't have a spray bottle, you can take a basin of water and lightly dampen it.
Then insert the pen all the way in like this.
Push up and down a bit. Gather this crease together. Then we maintain this state.
Let it dry naturally. You can also tidy it up a bit yourself. This is the shape we're shaping it into now.
Once it dries,
it basically retains its shape.
Once it dries,
our sleeve will be complete. Here, when making the skirt, we first cut these 3 pieces of the inner pattern.
When sketching on the fabric,
each part should be sewn and cut individually. Then I wrote down 123 here. Everyone should also mark the number 123 on the fabric
to avoid any mistakes when we stitch it together later.
And then there's the skirt part. The skirt part has a total of 4 sections.
Then we label each section with the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Then we'll handle each of the 4 skirt sections individually. The way it is handled is the same. I'll demonstrate the first section of the skirt hem for everyone. Additionally, I drew all the stitching for the skirt hem on the front side of the fabric. This way, the stitching is visible, making it easier for our next step. First, fold the bottom edge of the first section of the skirt hem Fold inward. The edge along the seam line here. Inward. Since the line continues, we draw on the front side. If you fold it this way, it will be easy to do. After we fold it properly, we will measure the line directly. I'm measuring a 1 millimeter line here. You can do it according to your preferences. If you prefer it wider, that's fine too.
After measuring, we will measure the fold line on the other long edge.
The fold line is measured 2 millimeters from both sides of the seam line. Measure a fold line. When measuring the pull line, start by loosening it a bit. I use 4 here and do not do any back stitching. After measuring the pull line, it should look like this. Then we repeat the earlier steps. Make sure to process the other 3 skirts. Once everything is processed, we will follow Take out the lining of the first section and the skirt of the second section.
Don't make a mistake.
It's the lining of the first section and the skirt of the second. We'll set the skirt of the first section aside for now, since we don't need to tuck in this part of the second section of the skirt. Once tucked, this part will have consistent dimensions. It needs to be sewn together with it. If we tuck it, we'll use the measurements we just took.
Extract the 2 bottom lines from this tuck line.
Simultaneously tighten both bottom lines.
Then we pulled out this broken line. One side feels tighter now.
You can switch to the other side, where two bottom lines are also pulled.
After the broken line has been pulled out,
let's slowly pull this polyline apart to both sides. Try to distribute the polyline evenly.
once everything is set,
we will align it with the bottom edge of the upper part. Encircle it like this and make a rough comparison. The dimensions seem to be quite consistent. We will position these two parts with their fronts, sew them together along the edge seams.
Be mindful during the pulling process. If the crease feels uneven at any point, you can tidy it up manually once more. Once it's done, we'll flip it over to check the front.
If everything is fine,
we'll take off the measuring line we just made.
Then we will take out the lining of the second part and the skirt of the third part. Repeat the steps from before. Assemble it together. The lining of the third part and the skirt of the fourth part. Also repeat the previous steps. Assemble together. This is how it looks once all 3 layers are put together.
Next, we'll assemble the top 2 layers. Tuck away the longer line at the bottom.
Here, we need to connect the seams of the top layer and sew it together with this design.
First, we will turn the top layer over.
That is, we have the front sides facing each other. This is the state when they are sewn together.
That is to take this position here.
And sew it together with this position. This is the time for stitching. This means that the front side of the first lining faces the second layer of the skirt is sandwiched in the middle. Align and sew along the wind line vertically.
After measuring, we flip it to the front for a check.
At this moment, the front looks like this. The back looks like this.
Then we take out the longer piece that was left. Sew this spot with that spot. And then we first flip this spot to the back.
It's the same state we had after gathering and assembling this layer of the skirt. Here, the lining of the second section is actually facing the lining of the third section. In the middle, there is a third layer of the skirt placed
After
between them.
stitching, this is how it looks when we turn it to the front.
And we still have a skirt from the first section that hasn't been used. We take out the skirt of the first section to gather the pleats.
size after gathering the pleats matches this position.
This position corresponds to the lining of our first section. In other words, it's the waistline position.
Once adjusted, we sew it this way directly. At this moment, everything is facing up.
There's no need to flip it over anymore.
This layer of the skirt is also facing up. This step is a temporary hold.
So we shouldn't place it directly on the style line. We can step 1 or 2 millimeters to the right of the style line. This way, after we finish the waistline, this line doesn't need to be removed.
After measuring, I'll mention that this is the position.
If the sisters here can sew the clear line, try to give the bright thread a little tug. If you're not really good at handling the bright thread, if you struggle to pull it and the machine is difficult to use, I have changed the fabric here. The method is the same. It's just that the fabric and I have already secured the bright thread for each layer. It looks great like this.
Then let's take a look at this edge location.
Once we have completed the waist section here,
We will fold and stitch this part inward again.
However, you can see that there are several layers at this position. Therefore, it is difficult to fold when we attempt to do so. So we can proceed with this step. First, measure it to secure the wire.
This wire serves a temporary fixing purpose.
If you want to take this wire off later, it feels more delicate. You can disassemble it later.
This fixed line,
we can drive it to the right along the trend line. The position is about 2 millimeters. If we need to take it apart, we start from a relatively central position. It will be easier to disassemble. As long as you can manage the first layer of the skirt.
Just sew it a little.
After it is stitched well, this side will be easier to fold. Then we repeat the steps. Handle the other side as well. Then we take out the waist piece. As for the waist piece, here, we follow the dimensions provided in the blueprint. Cut it down according to the 4 edges. I haven't illustrated the styles on either side. You can just add it yourself.
Take one of the long styles from the waistband.
Fold along the style line. Fold towards the reverse side.
Shaping with a styling tool.
This is what it looks like after styling. Next, we align the waist and skirt with their fronts
sew
facing
along the
each
seam
other.
line. Here as we sew,
the vehicle builds up wind lines. Then the vehicle gets to the final section of the body. It should leave approximately 1 to 2 centimeters. Trim off the excess sections of the vehicle.
Simply trim it along the edges.
Then let's deal with the positions on both sides.
We fold the waistband down like this. The crease we pressed in the front and where it connects with the skirt's waistband is perfectly aligned.
The side seam is located 5 millimeters from the edge.
This is the short line I've drawn. The other side is the same as well.
First, flip the waist to the front.
Then fold it down like this, 5 millimeter side short line.
After both ends are processed,
we take this design position, trim it at an angle like this.
Then take the 2 positions that were just sewn on the sides. Turn it to the front side. You can use tweezers to assist. After flipping both sides, it should look like this.
Then we turn it to the back side. There are 2 ways to handle this part. One method is to take the crease at the waist. This is the crease area that we've ironed, and the seam where we join the skirt hem and waist.
Sew using a long stitch technique. Another method is to use double-sided tape. First, stick this side down. Then we turn it to the front. Thoroughly explain the line fixation. Of course, if the sisters are skilled, you can also wrap it up like this directly.
Then turn it to the front and sew.
Everyone chooses according to the actual situation. Which method should we use in the end? After properly handling the waist, sew both side edges along the crease line. Fold it inward. Remove a clear line to secure it. You can iron it a bit before folding. After folding, it looks like this. Then we use the same method to handle the other side. After both sides are properly finally do it at the back. Sew hidden fasteners or use Velcro. This skirt is now complete. I've prepared 3 parts for making the dress here. The first part is the first section of the skirt. We have the second section, eyelash edging. What I'm using here is eyelash edging. Then its width is 1.5 centimeters.
You can also use other borders.
This depends on your personal preference. Mainly, just keep this in mind. The width I'm using here is 1.5 centimeters.
After we finish sewing, we will remove the design. The exposed width is approximately 1 centimeter.
That refers to the design of the first section of the skirt, because I am using mesh fabric here. If we're discussing mesh fabric, drawing long lines can be quite troublesome. I stopped drawing this style line.
But when I'm cutting, I also adjusted this size according to the style measurement.
Let me illustrate the style line for everyone.
I'll quickly sketch this small part at the front for everyone.
Everyone, please take a look at the location. This is the key position. This is the waist area. Leave 1 centimeter. For the other areas, leave 5 centimeters. At the waist, we will fold inward along the style line later. Then we will sew a channel for the traditional neck band. So we must not leave less than required. It's not good to leave too little. First, sew the edge of the design and the bottom edge of the second. The eyelash edge here is because I bought a ready-made product.
It's already pleated.
So there's no need to pleat it again.
If you are using something else,
or if the eyelashes are not pleated, you need to add pleats yourself again.
Then we draw the edges here. You can directly attach it to the front like this. You can also face each other like this.
Then we can turn it over after we finish sewing. Sew a clear line here to secure it.
I'm using the method mentioned later here.
Align the edge with the bottom edge of the second skirt section. We sew along the style line. After finishing all the sewing, we turn it to the front.
This style is facing the left side.
We press a 1 millimeter visible line on this mesh fabric.
Then we create a pleat on the other edge. This is also a double pleat.
It's 2 millimeters to the left and right of the design line. Each piece has 1 pleat line. Because the mesh fabric is not easy to draw the design line, so I didn't draw the design line at all.
Just give it a rough estimate. Loosen the pleat line a bit.
Use a 4 millimeter stitch length, then back stitch on both the front and back.
Then we pull up both bottom threads simultaneously. Remove the pleats. One side feels tighter.
Let's switch to the other side. It's the same with the 2 baseline
The
pulls.
size after pulling the pleats.
It is consistent with the size of the first section of the skirt.
Adjust it yourself. Try to distribute the pleats more evenly.
Once you've made the adjustments, we will attach this pleated section to the bottom edge of the first skirt, with the fronts facing each other. Mix along the style line.
Once the gathering is complete,
ensure there are no issues. Check it. You can take off the gathered line we just created. Then we will unfold the first and second sections of the skirt. Turn to the front. The technique used at the bottom.
We are at the bottom edge of the first skirt section. Mark a clear line. Then we will identify the top of the skirt at the waist. Fold inwards to the back by 1 centimeter. This is written on our drawing.
The position of the first section
We
of
need
the
to
skirt.
leave
1 centimeter in our
because we
design.
need to create a passage here.
Putting on the elastic
Here
band.
we measure a 5 millimeter line. After measuring, from here we use this collar tool.
Pull the elastic band over to it. There is no collar tool. You can use other small tools. A safety pin can be used. Check what tools you have and use them. Once the elastic band is in place,
We secure it at both ends. Then we align the 2 edges.
facing one another. Follow the edge all the way to the 5 millimeters
Trim
line.
the ends of the thread.
Turn this skirt inside out. Organize it yourself. Iron it a bit.
This tulle skirt is ready. Thank you all. To create a hat, we first need a hat brim. So let's start by making the brim. This is made from materials I found at home.
I didn't purchase any extra materials.
This white one on top is the cap of a craft glue stick. I trimmed it a bit. Stick it in the middle of this wooden block.
What this means is to tell everyone that we don't necessarily
have
have
lids
to
at
buy
home,
materials
That could work.
or those types of bottle caps. In fact, all of them can be used. You can make use of it properly. Alternatively, you can customize these round wooden blocks based on your size needs.
The required diameter and thickness for the round wooden block.
I have noted all of this on
Everyone
the
can
blueprint.
customize it based on my instructions.
You can also look for similar materials at home. Everyone can also choose according to their own preferences.
To determine the shape of this hat,
Different sizes of round wooden blocks can be combined.
you can create a variety of hats. And here's the circle at the bottom.
This circle at the bottom is part of the brim. The circle on top is the crown of the hat. The crown of the hat should have a certain thickness. However, the bottom cap face is not necessary. Regardless of whether it's thin or thick, we just need the circular shape of this cap face.
So this wooden block of the bottom cap face, you can be a little flexible with this thickness.
It doesn't matter whether it's a little thick or a little thin. The main factor affecting us is this small wooden block. There's also another one. If you take a look at this wooden block,
Its edges are straight, like the bottle cap I made earlier. Look at this part. It has a curve. If it has a curve,
the top of our cap will also have a curve. Like this straight type, the top of our hat is also straight. In other words, what shape is the top of your hat? The hat you will create later, it will take on that shape. If you want to create a shape with right angles, you can only use this kind of wooden block. If you want to create something with a little curvature that is smoother and rounder, you can use a bottle cap.
Alternatively, you can sand the wooden block with sand. Make this corner smooth.
That's also acceptable.
Like the hat we made today.
I used a bottle cap on top. Now let's use this round log. This bottle cap is from a drink. This bottle cap.
It seems to be called chai pie.
The glue I'm using is this type of glue.
This glue? Actually, when it was bought, it is transparent.
Then, after being left for a long time,
it turns yellow.
Everyone can check what glue they have at home. As long as it adheres well,
if you
that's
use
all
a bottle
that
cap.
The contact area beneath it is relatively small. We can only apply it along the edges. Apply glue to it.
Then we put it underneath.
Attach this circle in a more centered position.
For bottle caps like this,
it tends to overflow with glue because we applied it to
the edges. We can just clean it ourselves.
If both the top and bottom are round wooden blocks, we are actually the same. It simply means that when we paint towards the center, make some adjustments yourself. Try to make it as centered as possible. Align the vertical center point of this circle. But due to this, we can only make a visual estimate. You can use some small tools. You can also let it cool down a bit. You must wait for the glue to dry completely before using it. Therefore, everyone can prepare a hat.
Now let's make this hemp fabric hat blank. First, we need to cut a piece of hemp fabric.
The hemp fabric should be larger than the base of the hat we made. The large circle at the bottom should be one size larger.
For those who have never done this before,
I recommend that you cut it a bit larger initially.
Because we can make adjustments later. If it's cut too small,
then we definitely won't be able to make any more adjustments. And it can't be repaired.
Then I will put this hemp gauze here. Directly rinse it in the sink. Just regular cold tap water.
You should soak it in there for a few seconds.
Within 10 seconds. That's it. This one has been soaked in water. Let's find 2 rubber bands.
This is a rubber band used by children at home.
And about this rubber band,
I recommend using a tighter type of elastic band. Its elasticity is quite strong.
It will hold it more securely.
Make sure to press the elastic band down to the lowest position. If you feel that one is not tight enough, you can add one more. Or you can wrap it around twice, like how you would tie hair. Wait for about 2 minutes when the moisture on it is less noticeable.
We use an iron on it. Iron it lightly on the side.
Ironing the area where it bulges will make it flatter.
You can also iron the bulging area on top.
But be careful, for example, on this side.
This lid on top is bulging.
I am using a bottle cap. The bottle cap is plastic, so when we heat it and it bulges, if you're using a plastic cap like mine, you should prevent it from melting. Don't cook it for too long.
Melt the lid off of it. Just be mindful of safety, regardless.
It has been heated evenly. We simply wait for this bud to dry completely.
Here
in a
it is
natural
already
manner.
completely dry. Then we take off the part with the rubber band.
You can either cut off the rubber band or pull it out.
Then we gently pull this bud upwards a little. It just needs to be peeled off a bit.
But we have to put it back. This is just to prevent us from saying, "We'll wait a moment."
If we handle it completely,
If we take it out again, it may have a slight stickiness. The action we perform can easily become deformed.
to distort this hat,
So we will first peel off the membrane.
then we will trim along the edge of the hat last.
Before taking out the cap blank,
We will iron it again. Then we take the cap blank out.
then this part of the cap blank is done. Let's deal with the position of the prepared volcanic rock.
Here I'm using a 1 centimeter border. We wrap it up like this. You can use ribbon or anything else you prefer.
It depends on your needs. It means we divided the edge of this picture into 5 millimeters. At the lower
top and
edge here
bottom.
is 5 millimeters. The upper edge here is 5
We
millimeters.
sew it this way.
When we are making various decorations, try to avoid this protruding area. It was just pressed down or deformed by hand. However, if you accidentally touch it, it's fine.
When we are nearing completion,
You can return it to the protruding area. Give it another curling treatment. Let it regain its flat shape.
we're approaching the start of the lane. Stop at 1 centimeter from the start.
Compare it to the starting position. We leave a margin of about 1 centimeter.
Cut off the excess.
You can slightly fold this little part of the tail inward. After folding it properly, we'll wrap it back up. Folding about 3 to 4 millimeters is sufficient.
This is how it looks after processing.
The connection point is here. Then we apply alcohol glue at this spot on the top edge of the cap.
Pinch a decorative pouch around. Take note of this circle of decoration.
The position of the beginning and the end. The lace that I just had with the volcanic rock. The position of the beginning and the end. I placed it in one direction.
If we wear hats at that time,
just place this direction behind. It's at the back of the head.
it won't see this junction. Or you could add some decorations.
Cover this position for it. The words that are stuck to the beginning
We
here,
will also trim it a little.
leave an extra 5 millimeters or 1 centimeter.
Cut off the excess part.
Anyway, the areas at the beginning and end, just make sure there are no gaps.
Cover it up. Then we'll add a circle of lace around it. This lace is made with some tulle and a piece of lace sewn together.
Because I happen to not have the right size available.
You can simply buy the right size.
This way, you can avoid an extra step of stitching. If we need to stitch it, we will just use this lace. Directly place it on top of the dotted
sew
along the line. Sew along the line like this. Once it's sewn, we'll turn it over to the back.
Trim off the excess gauze in this area. Leave a seam of about 2 millimeters. The width I need here is, you see, just cover it like this.
It protrudes about 2 to 3 millimeters beyond the
This
brim.
width.
Everyone can adjust it to their liking.
If you like it a bit narrower,
then you can use a narrower lace. That's perfectly fine.
So I will fold it manually here.
You can also sew this step by hand. If you find it difficult to sew, or if some of you have corners that are particularly large, because we try to keep the stitching line consistent.
It's closer to the middle of the cap's top.
If you're doing it manually, try to use that pair of tweezers. Because my tweezers are slightly broken. So I had to use my hands. You have to be careful when using your hands. Be careful not to hit your hands. Additionally, it's about where it begins and ends. Just as good as the 2 decorative pieces we made earlier. The directions should all be in the same place. The car arrives at the starting position at the end.
It also covers a small area. Do not leave any gaps. Lay this lace over.
Next, we will find a ribbon here. I'm using a 1 centimeter ribbon here.
We sew it to the edge of the hat's top.
Pay attention to how we hand sew. There are still some thread ends left. We try to hide it as much as possible. We have a layer of lace here, and beneath the lace is the hemp hat.
Try to hide among them.
This way we can't see it from either the front or the back. The video I'm recording here may be a bit rough.
I just didn't position it in the center.
You all try to hide the thread a bit.
Then we tie the ribbon around the middle of the thread.
Let's see how it looks this way.
I just didn't sew the ribbon onto it. I just used this thread to tie it in the middle.
Then we pull the thread tight like this.
If we need to sew beads,
we first pull it tight like this once.
Then sew it again.
Add the beads again.
If you find it quite troublesome,
you can also just sew it once. Just thread the beads in directly.
Here we just work around this position. Then we average the distance for each segment.
For example, if each segment is 1 centimeter, then we standardize it to 1 centimeter. If they are all 1.5, we standardize
the positions of
each needle, exit, and entry. Actually, they are all pretty much the same. See, we're threading the needle here.
And then the ribbon is in its middle.
We thread the needle again.
Pull the thread tight. Then this ribbon is tied here. I want to place a bead at this point.
So we will sew another bead on. Repeat the previous needle in and needle out
Repeat
points.
the previous steps.
Finish sewing all the way around. The beginning and the end should not have any gaps. Cover a section with repeated stitching.
Finally, we can make a bow by hand.
Or any other decoration. Cover it in this position.
Cover this joint area.
Then the thin strap of my hat is part of this step.
Use a needle and thread to sew it in from the side.
You need to set the direction first. For example, this position where my finger is pointing right now.
This is the position on our forehead.
Then our ribbon will be aligned with this position. Thread it in horizontally.
You can also do this step in advance. Once we finish the edges, when we work on the lace by this brim, we can first attach this ribbon.
But I'll apply it again after washing it myself. This depends on individual habits.
After we pass through here,
we'll go through the other side.
After everything is done,
because there are quite a few steps. The hat might have been slightly deformed by our hands. We can place it back in the hat mold.
Use the steam iron to press it again. Fix the shape a bit, then we put the hat on.
There are 2 thin straps at the back,
or it can be thin at the chin. Next, we will make socks. The reason I didn't mention from the beginning where to start sewing is It's because if the sewing position is on knit fabric, you fold it down like this. When it's very short here, it's difficult to sew with a home machine. Let's leave a little more for it first. After the car is done, we'll go pick it up. To make the stitching on our socks more secure, let's fold it down first. You can take a look, mark these points. It's this point. On the other side, this side is the front. Mark the points on the edge of the sock. Take a look, this is the front. Then we draw the line on the reverse side. After marking, fold it along this line. The place where we put the needle is at the point we marked. First, we backstitch 1 or 2 stitches to secure it. Then continue sewing forward. When the car reaches this point, then move the car forward by 1 or 2 notches and also reverse 1 notch. All right, we have now reached the new point. Then backtrack 2 notches, stop. Continue walking forward. Walk to this point. Then stop again. Stop, stop. Keep walking forward. Keep walking forward. Walk to this point. Then stop again. Also go back 1 or 2 steps. Continue walking forward. Continue walking forward. Walk to this point, then continue the previous operation to rewind the needle. Then continue the previous operation to rewind the needle. Let's take a look now. Why do I need to rewind the needle at this point? When we cut later, we will cut along this edge like this to create a little seam for cutting. There are times when we have to reinsert the needle. We often wear and remove it like this. It will be more secure. This thread won't come loose. Now that the thread has been pulled, let's cut a little, just like this, flat. Cut off the excess seams. Don't cut this line. 3 to 4 millimeters outside this line is fine. If you cut it this short from the beginning, then when you go to cut it again, the edges won't be as easy to cut. Okay, now it's after we finished cutting, fold it like this. These are all the wrong sides. The marked areas are all the wrong sides. Besides the right side, we made a few marks. The socks are folded in half. This line runs along the edge. Unpick the seam. After sewing, move outward along the edge. about 3 or 4 millimeters. Cut off the sock, the area with a larger curvature. You need to cut an additional opening. Be careful not to cut into the seams. Also, don't cut too deep. After you finish cutting, flip the entire sock inside out. The socks are ready. Let's take a look now. This is the sock that has been heat pressed with designs. I applied the heat transfer on this side. The side is this way. Iron it directly here. Then this is ironed on the front side. Just do it like this. The side seam is at the back, and then it's ironed flat like this. Then regarding my socks, it is the ankle area. It is naturally narrower. If you like it a bit wider, you can refer to the one from 2 episodes ago, that Christmas drawings design. Now we will demonstrate the long stitch method. First, the end of the thread is hidden inside the fabric. We need to pull the needle out from inside the fabric. Aligning with this needle exit point, we insert the needle into another piece of fabric above. Can we see it clearly from this point? This point is the same as that point. Then we enter from this side and come out from this place. The distance between the needle entry and exit here is about 3 millimeters. You can make it a bit denser when you do it, and that's fine. Next, we also enter the needle at the same spot on the cloth below. The needle should be positioned about 3 millimeters away. This next step is also a repetition. It's simply a matter of doing it up and down repeatedly. After completing the reverse stitch, you can tighten the thread. Simply pull the needle through and tie a knot. Then insert the needle into the fabric. Just pull. Here, we will make a sewing box for the cage. First, we'll make a few cuts along this edge.
This is on the lining fabric.
Make sure not to cut too deeply. Fold it inwards. Inner fold. Scrape one side of the inner fold with your nails to shape it. After finishing the inner fold, we take this part from the inside. Our outer part section, the seam of the cuff, pull it slightly outward, align it with the inner part. You can use a clamp to secure it. There is a pointed seam on top.
The pointed seam on the outer surface also aligns
Here's a
with
side seam.
the side seam at the bottom is
Align
the
it
same with the inner side seam. Be careful not to prick your hand.
Let's sew now. When we sew to the surface, we must be on this seam. The needle should not go through the surface fabric. Otherwise, you'll see it when viewed from the front. I am currently on this seam.
It means I inserted a stitch into the surface seam.
Then we bring the needle to it.
Directly fold the lining inwards that we have prepared.
Make a stitch at the edge. If the sisters are skilled at using the long needle method, they can use it.
It will look more aesthetically pleasing. If you don't use it properly, there's nothing wrong with using this method.
Just a stitch through.
The top layer is the lining.
And the bottom is the seam of the outer layer. Just repeat this way. Okay, after sewing a circle, you can just tie a knot here. If we sew to the top, you will see the thread at this edge.
So we can't sew onto the outer part. We can only sew onto the seams.
And that's it.